a filter information, you must be able to follow traditional media. So that's a big difference from the traditional media perspective and
To
kind of
the
the new
new media,
media.
yeah.
Yeah, the traditional media has a great form of gatekeeping that social media or the new media does not have.
In fact,
Anybody,
new media, I mean,
anybody can dump
yeah,
anything on social media.
misinformation,
Good.
disinformation, they all
All on
thrive.
social media.
Yeah,
Somebody wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, this person did this." It's on social media. People start to run with it, especially people who are not information oriented,
yeah,
right? But some of us who will look at it, we want to fact check in the first place. So fact checking is one of the new form of journalism too. But at least over the last few years, it has taken over. Now we have two fact checking organizations in Liberia. You have the Local Voices and Dialogue Stage Media. They're
yeah.
doing well in other countries. Like the US got thousands of hundreds of fact checkers online. So for instance, if President Bouakai were to deliver a major statement and a policy statement, before the statement is even done, the fact checkers already out
Oh
with
yes,
statements, fact checking the president's statement, whether which one is true, which one is not true. But for us, it have to take maybe sometimes a couple of days or weeks before we fact check one story. So that's a challenge. So the fact checkers need to get support in that. So the new form of journalism, the solution reporting, you must be able to look at the response people are making, meaning the action people are taking to solve problems. So let's give an instance with that story on the water and sewer. The water and sewer story, was it really on the basis of response? So response could be the action taken to solve a problem.
yeah,
And the next step we have to look at will be insight. Did the reporter or the newspaper really understand the story that it was reporting and the manner and form the story was reported? You got to look at outcome. The outcome has to do with changes before and after. Each time we follow up on these stories, we must be able to ask the people out there who we are interacting with, the newsmakers.
yeah,
Well, what are you doing? Like for example, the story with the water and sewer. What has the water and sewer been doing to solve this problem?
yeah.
Do you have the issue of limitation? Limitation is the last aspect. Because after the outcome, you got to look at evidence. The story must be evidence based, and evidence based means the evidence must be visible.
Yeah,
If the person, if water and sewer is telling you that, look, we have cleaned about 5 different pipes around Monrovia, those 5 pipes must be visible. It should not just be you do the interview and you turn your back. You are not seeing the facts, and now you just reporting information. So many
yeah.
times you listen to the news, the journalist must be able to distinguish what is information and
This is
what is news.
yes,
That's the problem we're having. So there's a forum I'm speaking to today at Corina Hotel. It's a workshop for 12 rural journalists under the Liberia Media, the Liberia Forest Media Watch, right, run by one Paul Kane,
yeah,
and he's doing extremely well in that sector now. So he got a few journalists that he recruited, working with him basically on forestry. So they got some support from I think the EU. They're
yeah.
running a project, so they got interest in the solution reporting. So they invited us to be able to do a 1 hour, 30-minute session with the guys today. Now, from the background of these journalists who are in rural Liberia, I don't like to call them rural journalists
Yeah.
because we are all
You're
journalists.
all journalists,
We are
yeah,
all
yeah,
journalists,
whether urban
and
or
mind you, most of the journalists who practice in rural communities, if you compare with the ones in Monrovia, most of the troubles we have in the media, from my experience
come from
in working, come right
come
from
from
within
Monrovia.
Monrovia right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
Most of the people, especially for the emergence of the new media, the guys, they go to one or two journalism schools around here. Some of the journalism schools are not even accredited, but somebody will just wake up in the morning and run a journalism school. That's one of the reasons people are raising, some of our media colleagues are always raising issue in our chat room, saying that the media is not regulated as compared to other
Yeah, 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 other
professions.
professional
Yeah,
bodies.
and the
Yeah,
reason is journalism is an open profession. For example, citizen reporting. Anybody can be on the road and something happened. You remember the Joy Floor situation?
yes, yes.
It was a young lady walking by the street corner that reported the
Yeah,
story.
yeah. They stood there and
Yeah.
tipped it for a long time.
Yes, yes. And she raised her life because in the process, she would have been shot by the police.
Yes.
Right? She raised her life and reported the story. People started sharing that story around. It was through that young lady. So it was as a result of citizen journalism. So the kind of way the media is open, it makes it difficult. That's why I support the issue of self-regulation. If you want to be a responsible journalist, you must be able to regulate yourself. Because if you see something on social media and you just start sharing it without fact checking,
Oh no,
knowing the basis where it comes from, and then you pollute the airwaves. And then you let Mr. Kun, he used to tell in the newsroom during election time, he said, look, Titus, we don't want the radio to sound inflammatory. So but then we're growing up in the newsroom, so we're all concerned about breaking headline stories. So we interview some of the politicians, they're using some strong words, like for example when they arrested Charles Taylor, and the MPP guys were arguing here and there, raised the issue with Mrs. Salif at the time around 2006. Ellen had just become president, and the country was charged. You got the ex-combatants. Omil has not even come. You have EcoMail just coming into the country here, and they're trying to change from EcoMail to Omil. So the country was in a serious process. Syria had a call press conference, and Julius Kanova, my friend, attended the press conference. So Syria had used the word. The press conference was very charged. They used all their political jargons here and there. When Julius came to the newsroom, he did a story. The intro was the MPP, the former ruling MPP, has launched a stinking attack. Attack alone is a strong word.
Yeah, of course.
Then you are eyeing the adjective stinking.
Yeah.
So Mr. Kun said, no, they kind of story, we can have a story on the national radio. Right? Why? Because one, the country was in terms of security,
politically charged, and
you had a warring faction still around here, people threatening here and there. So you needed to have a post-conflict reporting approach to be able to soften the ground.
Because that's not going to move you to reconciliation and soften it.
Yeah.
But if you use that word, stinking attack. Those are strong words.
Yeah, and then you already have a legitimate government, so the government too might get aggravated by that kind of story.
Yes.
And might want to react against the ruling party members and here and there. So journalism itself, and that's the difference between the traditional media and the new media.
Yeah.
Because the gatekeeping. Because for instance, in ERBC newsroom, because ERBC newsroom is one of the largest newsrooms in the country that I know of. You got more than 30 reporters breaking stories from all angles. Even if all the reporters decide to bring story a day, they will not be able to air all our stories. Yeah. But you have a few reporters who are already doing well. So in that place, you have, like, for instance, sub-editor, you got a news editor, you got foreign desk editor when we were there at the time.
Yeah.
You got editor-in-chief, you got a director. And so you got like 5 to 6 persons looking at one story. You see? So social media, the new media, who looks at story? You got one new online media platform. The man who owns an online media, he's an editor, he's a reporter, he's a television man. He does everything.
So where's the good gatekeeping?
So whatever pleases him, that he sees from the street, that's what he puts out to the public. So now we who are following social media, we have to be careful how we share this information, or else, and no one should compare the emergence of the new media with traditional media. No, there was a debate. One of our colleagues posted online that traditional media is going out of style, blah, blah, blah. So I said one major reason is our reporters are not following up on stories from the solution approach. Now, solution journalism comes as a result of negative reporting. There's an issue called the issue of news avoidance. People avoiding the news because I wouldn't want to listen to ERBC 7 o'clock news when the news is not impacting my daily life, my daily income, my daily movement. Every time I listen to the radio, somebody is saying that one government official has stolen money. They send it one for workshop, and they took 500,000 or more than 500,000. They use it in 2 to 3 days. And my family out there, or probably my son is out there in school. He's being put out of school for $100. Why a certain group of people just sitting somewhere and mismanaging the country money? So I hear people discussing this thing over and over. How does that impact my life? So we should be looking at the story from the solution approach. So I tell the young reporters who are coming to journalism, if you came into journalism as a result of apprenticeship or internship, somebody held your hand. Like some of us came to journalism like that. I came from high school straight to ERBC. I was very fortunate. I participated in the ICDB 2002. I began the first out of 25 cases. And Adolphus Taylor and the rest of the people at the time said, "Oh, Titus, Blamo Robertson, the late, may his soul rest in peace. I think Titus need to stay on board. Zoga James, Zoga James was the first person who I co-angle with on Newsline. Wow. That it was 6 o'clock. That was a great opportunity for me.
And Zoga, and guess what? Zoga James was one person I mentored.
Aha, you see that? So, but that's why I was telling you that we have to call you Chief, because if you mentor Zoga, and Zoga was somebody that I co-presented with on Newsline, my very first time entering EFBC studio.
In fact, I have a joke about Zoga James. When I was coaching him, training how to read news during April 6th and stuff like that. And then one time he read the news and said, and this is the end of the news with Zagos. He forgot his own name and says Zagos.
So Mr. Rennie told us a story that the first time reading, I read very tight. He left his name. So those things happen because of
forgot his name.
Yeah, phobia. The radio has its own phobia, no matter how professional you are.
But Leggy, he didn't want to tell me that he read news and left and forgot his name. It was his mother who told me. So when I asked him, he said, "Why you have to tell Hassan? You know Hassan will go run him out."
and because of that, he has always advised me. He said, "Titus, every time as a reporter, you must always script your ideas." Because there was this interview I did in Mr. Rennie's office when he was deputy for broadcasting with Darius DeLong on Moses Blah. Moses Blah was sick and asking for help. So DeLong came in to do an SOS call for help to come from people, from philanthropists, from humanitarian. So when I did an interview right before my boss with my Marans, and I put the Marans on, not knowing the Marans is on pause. But I see the light blinking just as the bow is blinking like that.
So you felt that it was
it's on record. Did an interview with DeLong, asked all my tough questions. DeLong responded well. He's a good talker. Unfortunately, when DeLong left, I went in the newsroom, put my Marans on to get the actuality. And Mr. Rennie had interest in the actuality, more than just the story running. To listen now and write the story. Luckily for me, I was taking note while DeLong was speaking. But then DeLong was not senator. So I did a story. Then the story was in the headline. Mr. Rennie is waiting, because I did an interview right before Mr. Rennie.
He's waiting for that.
And he's waiting for that interview, right? So after 5-10 minutes into the news, they're carrying all the actualities. Mr. Rennie bounced in the newsroom. Titus, what?
Where's the actuality?
Where's the actuality? I put my head on my head. He said, "What is that?" I said, "Oh, but Chief, the tape they didn't record." He said, "Wow." But at least I was able to transcribe from the script, the note I took. So that is one of the key tools in journalism, is our pen and notepad that we always have to make use of.
I've always told
most of the reporters now, they see them, they got smartphone, they just go and put
their smartphone and
they turn their back. Sometimes they're standing lecturing. They're not taking note of what is happening. And it makes it a little bit difficult for your story to really be in line.
Titus, we'll have a whole maybe next Friday or so we can have a whole session of on that, because this is food for thought for them. And I've always told them. In fact, since I've been here, I've instituted some other policies, and people are already crying. Everything before you come on the radio, your program should be scripted. If it's not scripted, nobody puts you on.
Sure.
If somebody puts you on the radio without seeing your entire script, that person is punished.
Yeah.
If that person is punished and you do not, your program will not come on. If your program doesn't come on, then you have questions.
And that distinguishes the national broadcaster from other stations. I was listening to one religious station a few days ago. One of my students is there on internship. So somebody will call me, "Oh, Titus, I will be on the air this time. Please listen and critique me." So I said, okay. So I instructed my staff to put a radio on in our office, and this station is right by us in the Concordan Bell. So when we put the station on, they had a religious program on. So he said, "After this program, I will be on the air." I said, "Good." So the program was on for an hour. So all that hour the program is on air, this young man is not taking note of what he's coming to see. Even if you are going to say hello,
you scripted,
put it on the paper.
Yes.
Because it's possible you open the mic and there's a distraction from outside. Somebody walks in the studio with something. That alone might call your attention. But once your script is before you, you are able to be in line. So after the 1 hour program, open the mic, the guy introduces the program himself, call his name very well. But now to say something to us, he got stuck for a few seconds.
Because nothing was scripted.
So I told the guy, cut the radio off. You saw what happened to the guy? He's messed up because he did not script what he's supposed to be saying. And you can't just open the microphone and just talk, because if you do that, your thoughts will not be filtered.
So I tell them all the time, you live by example. Okay, so yesterday I didn't bring my glasses, so I couldn't see well. But this morning early this morning, I got here by 5 o'clock in the morning. And see my script, I scripted everything.
Yeah.
Even the jokes and everything I scripted in my computer. So I'm reading from my laptop,
Yes.
everything. Because you know what? I could just fumble along the way. And someone would say, wow, we expect better of you. And you don't want someone to tell you that.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's move on to some of the things we're here for. And, this we are waiting for. We've been waiting for Daniel Sando, the deputy minister. He hasn't shown us. So we got to get going. And I think, what a way to buy time, right?
No.
for the last 25 minutes, we've been chit chatting, and of course, it's nice to hear you talk about that. So we are going to. So we are going to Gloria Musu's card, and of course, during the week there were so much about the compassionate release or so on. But then one of the key aspects of her issue is that she said the killers themselves, those who kill Cholo Musu, are still out there, and that she's going to fight tooth and nail to regain her freedom. Let's listen to her.
For professional persons, professional institutions who have their institutional
Musu's cut the former Chief Justice. Now on the line we have our judicial correspondent Fabian Quia. Fabian, you heard Gloria Musu's cut talking about that this one murder, even knocking the docket or knocking the table. These are all strong words. I mean, strong emotions. That this one murder, nobody wants to continue with the murder, and that the real killers are out there.
Well, yeah, thank you this morning, Hassan, for the fact that she was granted that interview at the Monrovia Central Prison, and she's still insisting that the killers are out there. In her mind, she earlier pleaded not guilty to the charges levied against she and her colleagues in court. And so when the ruling was handed down, obviously her lawyers took an appeal, and it's before the Supreme Court, and so we've been waiting during this term to see as to whether our lawyers who have prayed for an assignment so that the case could be heard at the level of the Supreme Court. But again, Hassan, when cases of such are being heard in criminal courts and decisions are being made and appeals are being taken, obviously what emanates from the lower court is on hold, and so we await to see as to whether her team of lawyers will place that on the docket so that that case can be concluded at the level of the Supreme Court. But she's admitting her innocence, and I mean, from her thoughts, as you said earlier, you described it as being emotional. I mean, definitely she was emotional about the whole incident.
So, speaking of the Supreme Court, 3 lawyers have been barred by the Supreme Court because they submitted false credentials. Tell us about that.
Yes, it was last week. Friday, it coincided with the admission of attorneys at law before the Supreme Court to practice as counselors at law. And that program lasted 4 hours. And then after that, Associate Justice Wolokoli had this opinion to read. And it's a very long document with probably more than 10 or more pages. And so she mentioned that the Supreme Court, based on the investigation conducted by the examiners, administer whatever exams to the attorneys at law, they wrote to the Chief Justice and they forwarded a report. Earlier, which of course they reported that 63 candidates were forwarded to them, 13 did not pay the exam fees, and so they did not sit. But for the attorneys at law that were considered as counselor at law that passed the bar test, there were 31 that day. And so right after the ceremony, when Justice Wolokoli read her opinion, she said the court has barred 3 attorneys at law from sitting its legal exams. And the attorneys in questions are attorneys Alfonso Wewa, Partisan Blamusin, and Alexander Silly. They were banned for dishonesty. The 3 lawyers submitted petitions to the court on grounds that it met the 5-year legal requirements. Remember, Hassan, when you graduate from the law school, obviously you are not a lawyer. And so you have to practice for 5 years. You have to practice for 5 years to become an attorney at law completely. And then after the 5 years, you can write a petition through some lawyers before the Supreme Court so that you'll be able to practice as counselor at laws. Within the law, you have limitations. Attorneys at law, they are around other courts. But when it comes to cases that they have probably and are being forwarded at the Supreme Court, obviously you will not go in front of the full bench to go and argue or discuss because you haven't reached that limit to be counselor at law. And so the court said the petitions that are forwarded to the court, they don't meet the 5-year legal requirements for admission to the Supreme Court bar. And so the court decided that they will not set the legal exams until October 2027. That means they are being barred for 2 years.
Many thanks there to Fabian Kuya, our correspondent, our court reporter there. So we have in the studio now, we have Titus Tupai again, who is a media trainer, and we have the newly nominated, remember they nominated you twice. You pass the first test, you go to the next one with the same thing. But we have Daniel.
So the current one supersedes the.
Yeah, the current one supersedes. So I'm not going to call you the minister of deputy minister for technical services. I'm going to say the deputy minister for public affairs.
Designate. I only make one friend.
With deputy minister designated for public affairs. So you're going to be commissioned 2 times.
Oh, certainly.
Is the microphone on? I'm not sure.
Certainly, you getting me?
Yes, you can get in there.
Yeah, that's what is required. So we have to go through the rudiments to be able to operate or function within our new capacity. So the moment the nomination appears on the Senate floor, we will be required to submit our credentials to the Committee on Information and Broadcasting of the Liberian Senate.
I think this should be a walk in the park because you've already submitted.
You don't want to say that about the Senate. They will always be there to do due diligence, to vet individuals that are nominated by the president.
For specific positions.
Yeah, for specific positions. So,
okay. So anyway, let us not waste our time on that because I know they still, like you said, they're still going to do what they're going to do anyway.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court issue, Supreme Court barred 3 lawyers. What do you make of that?
I think it's I think the minister can go first. Go for Mr. Minister.
First, let me apologize for being late because I had thought the show was 9 o'clock. So when I called your phone and then you told me it was 8 o'clock,
yeah,
I was just in routine. The heavy downpour, the rain caused traffic. So I'm happy to be here, but I couldn't help but to agree with. As I was driving, I was listening to the show. Tatas laid a very good premise, and I think if every media practitioner out there were following the foundation that he laid in the studio here, how journalists should proceed, I think the media will be very helpful to the government. Come to talk about the solution reporting that he talked about. You just report story. There's a story in one of the local dailies, Women Forces. President Boaka digital training, 10,000 digital training in this area. And when you read the story, it says completely different thing.
Yeah, that's a sensation. I saw the headline. I think it was yesterday
See that?
publication.
When you read the story,
Sensational.
it says completely different thing. So, I mean, it becomes difficult because people are more interested in sensationalism than telling the truth, which is bad for our country because the media does not operate in a vacuum. The media has a fundamental role to play. If the media sticks to that role to help report societal ills, structural imbalances in society from an informed perspective, the government will take it in good faith. So for example, if you are reported that there's running water, feces water on Center Street, the authorities concerned would have gone on Center Street to say, let's go ascertain the situation. But you just read headline, Pupu water takes over Central Monrovia. Central Monrovia is big. I mean, so you make it appear that even the managing director of the Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation had to come up to say, the story is not true because we all see the team working restoration or running water in the city. You see how you see how they're working every day to restore the pipe, the sewage line, and everything.
Wait a minute, so, I know you. I know you're already in your job. So
we will do more of that in the next few weeks.
He's already doing that. So
yeah.
So let's come to the topic. Actually, talking about false credentials.
Yeah.
Because
it's a serious issue, and before even your reporter came on, I've heard the story. I think a week ago now. Right, and it was not really clear at the time when the information came first, when I got the information from the court. But now that it is clear, it's been reported that it has happened. My question to people who do these fake credentials or always, what's the rush? About, for example, you didn't graduate from the school and you say you graduated. You haven't met this benchmark and you say, I've reached the benchmark. For me, there's nothing about rushing. If I tell you how long I spent at the University of Liberia Honor Grad program, you won't believe it. But yes. I went through and came out, we went through the right procedure, got my honor grad, and then I went to the master's program, 3 semesters. And I came out with flying colors, and now I go back to the master's program doing my second master's. So the school has a system, like the bar association would do. You graduate from the law school, you have to take the bar test, and you got to practice for at least 5 years. Yeah. So if you practice, for instance, for 4 years plus, and you haven't reached your 5 years, and that within that year they are giving the bar exam. Is that the only bar exam? Is that the end of the bar exam?
No, there are more.
Is the world ending today? Yeah, so you got to always persevere, encourage yourself. So I think it's a misstep by those lawyers. And that's one of the reasons why the law profession is being distinguished from the media profession. And this is a heavy debate about the media. And I said initially that because of our openness, that's why it is a little bit difficult to have the media fully regulated because of how open the media is. So those guys, and I think it will serve as a serious caution to others that look, you cannot do this when you haven't reached this benchmark. And regarding the former Chief Justice, I like to say that lady is one person that there's a topic in public relations called the lighting public. She's part of my lighting public. Growing up, I admire her voice. When I think she was in the Senate, when the guys want to raise issue, when she talk, her voice can calm situations. So I was surprised when I was listening to her not too long from that actuality.
Yeah, banging on the
yes, you know, she was highly emotional. Yeah, because she's somebody that her voice is very calm, and her situation is a delicate situation because it borders on the life of somebody who already lost their life in the process, and we can just call on the Supreme Court to be able to, because justice denied too is justice denied, right? So justice should not be delayed because our presidential situation almost 2 years now. We just got a verdict from Banga. Imagine since 2022, we had an election conflict, and I think one of the reasons why our country, our democracy has a problem is our justice system is very slow. So there's a need. The government needs to be proactive when it comes to. And I'm happy that the Deputy Minister of Public Affairs designated this year, because those are some of the issues that he will be addressing as time goes back. The justice system is it can delay, and when it delays, it leads to a lot of problems.
Yeah.
People start to apply mob justice here and there. So there's a need for the Supreme Court to fast track this case involving the former Chief Justice.
Well, I mean, we got about I think a minute on this topic. Maybe he just referred to you on the justice.
So we had to. I led a team of journalists to the Monrovia Central Prison to do that interview.
Good.
And that visit came from the backdrop that there was unfounded report in the media that the government had released the former justice on what they call compassionate leave. It was very troubling because what we want to do is to preserve the democratic credential of the government in a way that people do not see us as being an institution that undermines the rule of law. So the reports were troubling. So I suggested to my boss that the way to kill this whole misinformation that has been reported, why can't we take a team of independent journalists or the prison compound to see for themselves? And then he said that's a good idea. So we called the Solicitor General, and then we arranged it on Saturday. I got some journalists, particularly from those institutions that were reporting the story, because they were hell bent that the government had released Justice Scout. So I said, we have to go to the prison compound. Oh, my man, I won't go to jail. I said, my man, we can go to jail. So when we went to the prison compound, we sought the permission of the prison superintendent, who called his boss, and then we were allowed on a condition that they could only allow the government-run Ministry of Information page to do the live broadcast. So we did our live broadcast, and she was very emotional. But what that points out is that people have to go beyond the sensationalism that they want to do in the media, because that report, that interview, exposed the lies that were being told by some media entity, right? And just before I come to the issue of the lawyer, I agree. The media have to self-regulate. Not everybody in the journalistic space is a journalist. So there has to be a line of dichotomy drawn as to who is a political commentator and who is a journalist. And even if you are operating within the journalistic space, there are certain things that you cannot do. Because if you go on the radio and say something and deliberately tell a lie that tend to injure the reputation of the government and mislead the public, the government should be on an obligation to act. But if the government acts, they say, oh, the government cracked down the media.
Yeah, but there's
right? So I come in. So yesterday the LTA released a list.
No. We don't want to go.
You got your vision on the list.
Yeah. Because we have a whole hour to discuss that from 9 to 10 o'clock. The LBS management will be here.
We will not be here.
Yeah, but
so the issue with the lawyer, right? The issue with the lawyer should hold himself to very high standard. Very high standard. And that's why the lawyer profession is properly guided by ethics and principle. I mean, it beats my imagination that people who want to be lawyer in the court will try to bend the rules to fit themselves in certain category. It is absolutely wrong. And I think the current administration at the Supreme Court, they've been doing extremely well to ensure that the profession of lawyer cannot be bastardized. You see how the issue of Wambo Dike was stored.
Yeah.
The Bar Association tried to disbar him. They said, no, you cannot do this. You got to do this. But it has to be done because, they hold the gavel of society. When everything goes wrong, when there's disorder in society, the lawyers are the one who's supposed to come to restore order. And therefore, you cannot be the one involved in academic malpractices. It is absolutely wrong. And I would like to commend the Supreme Court for uncovering that discrepancy and taking the action where appropriate.
So let's move on to the next topic. We said the Civil Service Agency concluded some cleanup exercise. 26 government functionaries, and of course one of them is LBS, Monrovia City Corporation, Ministries of Education, State, and Foreign Affairs. So let's listen to Josiah Jokai He's here to tell us exactly what he has uncovered.
The monthly savings as a result of blocking the 210 unverified individuals amounts to $74,998.89. Meaning going forward, the government is going to be saving $899,986.68 from blocking the 210 individuals. The dismissal of the 40 employees will save the government $18,539.98 monthly, and will save the government annually $222,479.76. The analysis reports show that several employees are in direct violation of Section 4, 3, 4, and 16 of the revised Civil Service Standing Orders of 2012, which states unauthorized absence from work for a period of 14 consecutive days may be considered by an agency head as resignation. In keeping with this provision, the Civil Service Agency has recommended dismissal, suspension, and warning actions against employees from the three spending entities. For these grave financial resource leakages in our system, the Civil Service Agency requests the Ministry of Justice to fully investigate the human resource directors and financial controllers of the Ministry of Mines and Energy, Liberia Institute of Public Administration, and the National Center for Coordination Response Mechanism.
Wow, strong words there. How about Josiah Jokai? Wow.
I think the Civil Service Director, he's in a critical and tight portfolio. And the reason I say this is that it's a good process when you say the payroll is bloated and you are trying to reduce the payroll so that it align with government income, and so that you don't be spending more than what you earn. It's a good thing. But it becomes critical or difficult when, for instance, you see 10 persons supposed to be in this room as staff, and then the payroll is saying that they are 15. So you got 5 persons that you're spending money on for nothing. Somebody not even coming to work, but at the end of the month, they get their message from the bank. They go to the bank, they collect their money. We've seen this since Mrs. Salif regime from 2006. If you follow Mrs. Salif, I call her inaugural message, she mentioned that the civil service was bloated.
Yes.
From that time up to the time she left the civil service, they were right sizing, all kinds of sizes. Even at LBS were here, they did right sizing. At a certain point in time, they had to put some people down here and there. They've always done it. But then we realized under the CDC administration, they did the how they call it, the harmonization. And then during that process, they said they were trying to, some people from the Unity Party regime at the time under Mrs. Salif were making too much money. So for instance, somebody making $25,000 US per month. And then they say the person comes from, as if the person is an expatriate. You're an expatriate in your own country. Yeah. So what education so much that this person has that makes him to make such a money, and why other people cannot even make even $100? So it became a problem. CDC came and said, look, we want to harmonize. So somebody was making like $2,000, the person is now making something like $1,300. So you're taking about $700 and some dollars from that person. And mind you, for us who study economics, it has an adverse effect on family budget. So for instance, if I'm making $100 per month, my family knows that $100 I make, I set my budget for also working in line with budgeting.
Yep.
We don't spend outside of what we have budgeted for.
Of course.
So if you cut my pay like that, it makes it a little bit difficult. And that was one of the main reasons most of the civil servants were contending against the CDC government. Now, when CDC did the harmonization, there were information came out that the same CDC that said the payroll was bloated, as was also reported by Mrs. Salif administration, started to employ people in those positions. So my caution to the Civil Service Director General, he's a very in the press, he's somebody that I know personally. We've interacted when I was practicing in mainstream journalism. He's one person that I admire. He's a great person, smart man, and we hear him for his work. But we just want him to be a little bit careful. If, for instance, you say the 40 persons you are dismissing because of the crimes they've committed in the civil service, right? And are you going to, is the current government going to leave that space empty? Or is the government going to recruit new people
To replace the
replace the 40 persons? That is a situation that probably the Minister of Public Affairs, that some of the issues you will be handling. Because it will bring issue out. Because we've seen government agencies come and say, look, the payroll is bloated, we want to reduce the payroll. They put people down. When they put people down, the same people who said that this system is bloated, they start to employ their cronies. And when you do that, then the civil service action becomes a political action that will be resisted as time goes back.
I hear Daniel breathing in the microphone, so that means he can contain. He can contain his silence.
We have to be able to meet at one point to say, for example, here is how we want to run this country, and here are the steps that we want to do. We want to take to get the country where we want it to be. So I say that to mean that we all witnessed the steps that the Sedif administration took to revive the civil service. It cost our administration a great deal of political capital resources because the civil service was factionalized, it was bloated, it was whatever you want to term it. But it has to be professionalized. People have to be placed properly in the civil service because in the end, it's about productivity. You can't have 10% doing one person assignment. So the civil service was properly structured. On the 12 years of President Salif, they used the time to properly structure the civil service. When the CDC government took over in 2018, we all witnessed what happened. The civil service became a recruitment ground for partisans. They brought in people which every government is under obligation to find job for its partisan. But you can't do so at the detriment of the country. So you destroy the civil service in the name of employing your partisans. Now you increase the government wage bill. The current exercise that is going on, it's not intended to take job from anybody. The current exercise that has been undertaken by the civil service is intended to properly structure the government workforce in a way that it reflects value for money. Okay? You can't have a situation where somebody doesn't go to work, but they are on government payroll at the end of the month because government uses direct deposit to pay civil servant to go to the bank and get money. So, for example, all civil servants are called by rule, the standing order, right?
Yeah.
14 days of absence from work is deemed to be what? Resignation.
Yeah.
Why should I be working in an agency and not go to work for 14 days in a month?
And others are going.
And
you receive the similar.
But at the end of the month, we go to the bank to withdraw our money. Okay?
It's part of public corruption.
I use the Ministry of Information, for example. When we got there in March, they told us that the payroll was 413%. 413%. So we go to work every day in the building hosting the Ministry of Information. We don't see
the 413 staff.
Not just the 413 staff, but you don't even see 200% entering that building every day. But you insist that the ministry has 413% in your employed. Some of the revelation that we have discovered as a result of in-house investigation, the civil service intervention, everything. I can't say somebody on the radio, but it's very embarrassing. You say somebody is on leave, but you don't have any documentation about the person's academic status, no school the person attending, but government pays that person every month. They call their salary. And it brings me to a point where the Deputy Minister for Budget was lamenting the other day. It's either government is paying money to people who are not going to work because you don't see the people. So the civil service has now carried on what you call the physical hair count and verification exercise. As a result of that, all of these actions that have been announced was a result of that exercise. So it was not an armchair process He just sat to his combatant office and say, "Oh, the Ministry of Lands and Man got the people there." And so it's not witch hunt. It's not witch hunt. If those positions exist and there were individuals who were employed in those positions who are not going to work, they can be on government payroll. And guess what? He has said to us that, look, all of the people that we have removed from the payroll, we have blocked this person, this number X number of person, they cannot come back to make a claim. In March, when we went to the ministry in March, for April, the payroll for April, we blocked 10%. We blocked 10%. And guess what? Among the 10%, only one person came to the ministry. And who was that? The former Lone Star player called Christopher Blair. We asked him, do you work here? He said they put money on the payroll. Right? That presidential directive. But people who work to the ministry, whose names are on payroll, they have departments, right? They have functions to carry out for government. Where do you work? Which department do you work in? He said, oh, the former youth and sport minister sent me here, and the president wrote letter using them put money on payroll. But you don't work here. Your name is on payroll. You say, oh, that presidential directive. That era has ended. So among the 10% that were blocked for April, only one from the Ministry of Information, only one person came back to make a claim. And even that person was not a legitimate employee of the ministry. So these are some of the discrepancies that this young man is working to uncover every day. It's costing government thousands of dollars, if not millions.
It's a good process, Mr. Minister.
Yes, so we take a caution in good faith as a government, but equally so, we have to save the government unnecessary spending, because it is absolutely wrong. It is illegal for somebody who doesn't work, who doesn't do anything to sit to the houses and get direct deposit at the end of the month. Somebody take pay to mobile money.
You know, Chief Hassan,
right?
we have this situation in Liberia called Dihu and Kawahu. Yeah, that's for me, there where I come from. And I'm happy that the president, I think he was in Lofa recently. He made a statement. He was talking to some citizens, some UP partisans, believed to be UP supporters, anxious for a job here and there, asking for a job. And he was clear that, look, the government cannot employ everybody. It's true. That's why we even advocating that the government will be able to attract
more investment.
More investment, so that the private sector can be attractive for people who are qualified to go there. For me, I would like to be. I've been in the private sector for the last 10 years, and I feel very comfortable in the private sector, right? But then the president made a very clear, that statement alone is a policy statement, right? And then to just be encouraging your partisans that, oh, you will get job, we'll get you job, so that it doesn't be like the people names that you are getting off from the payroll.
Yes.
As time goes back, then you try to replace them with people who are believed to be supporters of Unity Party. If you do that, then it will be like you are doing the same thing that other governments did.
No, that is not the motive.
Right?
That is not the motive of
so
this
that's
exercise.
my only caution.
The motive of the exercise is to weed out the bad apples among the
which is a good process,
right?
It's a good human resource process.
And that does not mince our words about it. If you are a director of research in an agency, you don't go to work and you fall into power with the civil service standing order, you are dismissed or removed from the payroll, you have to be replaced because somebody has to be there to do our research work.
No, in that case, you will be replaced. But we're in the civil service director.
Let me just say this, right? We run a New Liberia newspaper at the Ministry of Information. I call a staff meeting of the people in the newsroom. How many person in the newsroom? We are 25%. 25% in the newsroom.
Almost like ERBC newsroom. So when I was at ERBC, we were 38 reporters.
So guess what?
You had like 10, 15 that really used to bring reports.
So guess what? The guy, Tatas Chade, he said to me, Minister, we got a problem. I said, what the problem? He said, we have a gap for real professional individuals. I said, what do you mean? He said, we don't have a proofreader. We don't have a desk editor. We don't have executive mansion correspondent. We don't have this. We don't have that.
And you still have 10
but you have 25%. He said yes. So guess what? What the past administration did was that these positions are there. They don't care about the competence and qualification. So once they became vacant, they just took somebody who cannot even read and write and say, go there. You are desk editor.
So now, therefore, accommodation.
Now we are prepared to run the government newspaper. It's on the newsstand 3 times a week.
Is it up now?
It's up. The New Liberia newspaper up.
Okay.
Yes, it's been up for the last 1 month.
Okay.
Right. All right. So but where are the people? Oh, they're there. They have the title, but they can't do the work. Now, how do I? So In the end, you have one person doing 30% job in the newsroom. You are journalist. They say it's bad for it because every time the people, there will be some minor glitches to hold the people from coming because, I mean, you need a proofreader.
Yes.
You need somebody who's a desk editor. You need executive management correspondent to cover the presidency to give you factual information. What is happening? Effective information, right? That is not happening. So it's a problem. So now the administration at the Ministry of Information is left with the burden to say, how do we get a desk editor? How do we get a proofreader? When the people, the past administration put in the payroll, occupying those positions, cannot do the work.
And we are training people and putting our young graduates out there from the various journalism school.
Yeah.
The children are finally delivered to even get a job.
Yeah.
They come back to us for
So
internship.
it becomes a
or trials.
problem. It becomes a problem.
You see?
So the way we want to do it is not to go, look, since we went at the Ministry of Information, we have not dismissed a single person. I mean, dismissed to mean that, I take it from my office to bring somebody. The minister said we didn't come to wage home. The past administration came here, they took people from position because they were partisan this and that. We didn't come for that.
So what are you going to do in this case? Not that you have about
25
persons who are doing nothing, whatsoever, nothing, and you still have so much need.
We have gap.
You have gap.
Yeah.
So then now, and Titus is saying that, and truly too, there are the Peter Cook School, the University of Liberia, they are graduating people every year. And those people truly need a job
because they got the skills.
They got the skills.
So
other people don't have the skills. So how are you going to grapple with
it? So this is why I was cautioning my co-discussing not to kind of undermine.
No, I'm not. I'm not undermining
because the process that Mr. Josiah Jokai is heading is eventually going to lead us to answer that question, right?
And in fact, he has told us that after he's done with all of the cleaning the government, he's going to save the government $31 million.
That's good amount of money.
The next thing he's going to do is to do credential audits.
Yes.
If the News Liberia needs a desk editor and you're bearing that title, you don't have a first degree, you're not a journalist, you can't do that way, right? They're not going to dismiss you, but maybe they're going to put you somewhere you can work. So he said to us that we should hold on after he's done with the physical verification and head count exercise. He's going to do the credential audit. It is a credential audit that is rightfully going to place the round square, the round holes, the square pair in square holes, right? Yeah. So it's not about witch hunt. We want to ensure that government gets maximum benefit from the money she spends on the wage bill every month. And that's how it should be. Government should not be dumping ground where people who do not have job, they're not competent for job, they just come into government and in the end the civil service become very effective. Yeah. Ineffective. It's not the way it should be.
Because there's a public perception that government is taking care of 75% of employment rate, right? And if we have that mindset, it would be a good thing if the government actually has that ability to employ 75% of the population of the working class in our country. But the point is, the government should be able to have people with the skills, with the needed skills. Like the private sector, before you get a job there, you go through processes. Yeah. But the government institution, a phone call can get somebody a job, a director job. Yeah, it's bad. You apply to an institution, they say this position is for first degree holder, minimum. If you have a master, it's an added advantage. Now you got about 8 person who apply, and 6 person or 7 person got bachelors. 1 person got master with the skills, right? We're not just looking at the paper. We're looking at the skills. The man who brings the skill. The skills is what you will use on the job.
And not the paper.
Not the paper. The paper is a qualification. Then you look at the man with the master. You take the man with the bachelor who doesn't have a skill because somebody made a phone call. When you do that, you undermine even the school system.
And you kill institutions.
People get discouraged to go to school. They don't see education as a way out. Because when we were growing up as kids, our parents told us that education is the best way.
Yeah.
And now it seems not to be the best way. And I don't want to even argue that out, that education is not the best way. No, I disagree. Education is still the best way, especially in this 21st century.
Yeah.
To have a better, a well-paying job, you must have the skills, you must have the education, you must have the know-how to handle issues. You can't have somebody like, for instance, you run the New Liberia newspaper. It's the major work so far that 25 persons are supposed to be doing. So you don't even need even 25 persons. Major thing is you have the various counties. You don't even need correspondent in each county. All you need is the counties should be shared into region. Do 4 regions. You have 4 correspondents. They link up. That's what you think a BBC reporter ought to cover the whole of Liberia at a given time?
No.
No. But people looking at the magnitude, the impact of your story that you are reporting to the BBC, because the World Service, it has a world view.
Yeah.
So you're not just going to put anything on the World
No.
Service. So the New Liberian newspaper should be a paper that set example. But if the government cannot manage its own newspaper, then tell me,
So-
what will you tell
If
other
we-
private
the
institutions,
example-
other dailies?
The example we want to set now, you say we're taking job from the people.
No, I'm not saying you are taking job from the people. I'm just signing a caveat that other government can honor that measure, that the payroll is bloated. If it happened right here to EFBC, Mr. Kerry is aware. When I was here, I worked here 12 years ago. When we were here, a management came there and said that the payroll was bloated. We said, good. Some of us who already were qualified, we had the skills. Even if EFBC has threw me out as a result of that process,
You say
I was going to
survive.
get a job. In fact, I was at LBS when Truth FM employed me. They gave me the letter. I turned the offer. There were a couple. Yeah, Mr. Kewu. He recommended me to LEC, a job that I should have been paid around $700 around 2014.
I gave him the key. I gave him the key to the
The
office.
very day I got a job, I got a car that I couldn't even drive at the time. I turned that offer down because I had the skills. I qualified myself long ago. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you come with that brilliant idea that you want to do this, the way Josiah Joker is doing, he's doing a pretty good job. I must admit, he's a good gentleman. But along the way, people might come and start talking in here. Yeah, say, look, my man, election is coming. Blah, blah, blah. Because we know what can
Josiah,
happen.
let me just say this.
We know what can
Josiah
happen.
has repeatedly indicated that he doesn't see politics as a way of doing his work.
And that's how it should be with the civil service. You
Civil-
saw the
he
motorcyclist
He wants
situation.
to. He
for
wants to.
instance.
He wants to professionalize the civil service. There's a tendency in this country for people to always stand before reforms, right? I know. I understand what you're saying. That people will want to say, "Oh, it's political." It's not. It's not it. But we have to graduate from the point where we always want to see our country as being separate from other countries around the world. You talk about the motorcycle incident. The current reform that got Monrovia a bit stable. There's no go zone for certain things. Before you go there, you have to be identified. You have to do that. There were people who threatened to protest. But these are the same people who leave this country. They go out and they come back and praise other countries for being organized.
They don't want to be
They
organized.
don't want to be
I parked my
organized.
vehicle. I parked my vehicle to the office yesterday, and I had to go to Total bypass to meet somebody. So I took motorcycle, put the helmet on. So I asked him, I said, "So what difficult about this thing that you're rejecting?" He said, "I don't know." I said, "Yeah, you are now. You are properly attired, right? You have your helmet. I'm riding with you. I have my helmet. You have your shoes, everything on. What is wrong about it?" He said, "I don't know why people want to protest about it." So you see, we are in a process of reforming the country, and that reform is going to take place in every sector, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's civil service reform, whether it's judicial reform. That's why the government was elected, to make reform, to make a difference. And when you do so, not bearing in mind that election is in 2029, you can always be on the side of the people as a government. But when you come, you win election, and you are more focused on the next election to the extent that you do the wrong things at your own detriment, then you don't like the country.
Okay, Daniel,
Sure.
we'll stop it right there because I think this is a good topic. I wish we had enough time to because I mean it's a good thing that Josiah Joker is. I mean, hands down, nobody would deny the fact that. But let's switch gears now to the capital, where this week, sometime last week, or this week, the speaker threatened to shut down the legislature, or let's say the House of Representatives, if incentives are not provided. Other people have received theirs, but they haven't yet. So let's hear from him.
It's astonishing to me that the Commissioner General will report that he's overperforming on revenue, yet the House of Representatives, which is a part of the first branch of government, is unable to receive benefits budgeted in an astounding fashion. We should not be in a position to go be on the street to be crediting money from money changer to provide our members gas. We should not be in a position where the instruments that lawmakers use to come to work every day cannot be provided for them because you say no money are finance. When the Commissioner General is reporting that he's overperforming, we cannot be in a position where you fund the Senate retreat. Yet we have postponed our retreat and we're running behind NGOs to help the House of Representatives have their retreat. You're leading us to a dangerous conclusion. The attitude of the Ministry of Finance towards this House is leading us to a dangerous conclusion, one which we must not make in the interest of coordination of the branches of government. I am disappointed. Only 2 months worth of benefits. And cannot even get money for retreat. We got to go beg NGOs. If we cannot come to a resolution pretty soon, we will shut this House of Representatives down.
Wow, strong words there. If he doesn't get, he mentioned them, and of course, this came at the background of the Commissioner General of the National the Library Revenue Authority had appeared before the House to explain, revenue performance and all that kind of stuff. And he said, well, the revenue collection is overperforming. He's performing very well. And he said, oh, how is it performing? But we're not getting ours. Everybody has received this, but then when it comes, you guys are not paying attention to us. Maybe they're giving away a bunch of excuses. How can you say we are performing, meanwhile we are not getting ours? So Titus, you go first.
I think it reminds me of my days covering the legislature for ELBC then, around 2010 to 2012. I see a re-emergence of the Speaker Tyler and Ellen Johnson Sirleaf fight. And mind you, it was Unity Party then.
But it
is now Unity Party now, and with a different speaker, right? And anyone who doesn't learn from history has a problem.
Yes,
we have to learn from history because it teaches us not just about the past, not just the present, but it gives us clues to how we address situation. Now, during the Tyler and the Ellen fight, the problem was about power and money. Who the Mrs. Sirleaf and Tyler, despite coming from the same county, people thought that because they came from the same county, the government will have coordinated very well.
Yeah.
But Tyler being from the, I think, Action Party with Vanny Sherman and the rest of the guys who broke away, who were trying to break away from Mrs. Sirleaf UP at the time, because they were conflict in a coalition. So Tyler now was like an independent speaker. So the few guys in the legislature at the time who, like Buffer Chimos, the former speaker, but then he was not speaker, they were all ganging up against Mrs. Sirleaf at that time. They all decided to join the bandwagon of Tyler. And it was a serious fight. At a certain point in time, the president and the speaker could not communicate. That brought the entire economy into serious problem.
Yeah.
At one point in time, on the Christmas Day, imagine Christmas Day, we were at the legislature when the vacation students had protested for their money and they were trying to disturb the city.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, the House of Representatives called and they started the recession. We were there. Mrs. Sirleaf came out because we got information that the president had sent for the speaker. The speaker said he could not go at the mansion at the request of the president because he happens to be the head of the first branch of government, quote unquote.
So she should go to him.
So the president should rather go to the Capitol building. So the president's men, from our information, advised the president that, Madam President, you are the head of the government. For stability's sake, for coordination, let's go to the legislature. So they moved to the legislature. So we were there that whole day. It was a weekend. I think on the Sunday, we didn't go to our individual services. We were at the Capitol building. And in that section, it was not easy. It was tense among the lawmakers. Some of the lawmakers started to, because of lobbying, some of them started to default from what they had initially planned. And then they were now split. They were split among them. And after that meeting, few weeks later, the oil consultation business came in. You remember the $100 million, the $1 million oil consultation, where there were reports that one or two persons got like $100,000, and the rest of the guys were devaluing the other crumbs, and they brought a serious fight in the legislature. So with Speaker Kofa making such a statement that they are not being supported, they're not getting their allowances, their benefits, and so forth. This is something that, in my mind, in my opinion, the Unity Party government must be able to learn, because President Boakai, who is now president, was then vice president, and I know very well he followed the politics of the country at that time. So the current president can learn from that missteps, so that it does not creep into this new government, because it's too early. This is the first year of the Unity Party government, first out of 6 years. And the way the speaker is sounding, and mind you too, the speaker has to be careful, because during the speakership election, it was highly perceived. Public perception is very important in communication, in public relations. So the public perception was that Speaker Kofa, being from the CDC, wouldn't want to work with the Unity Party government. Yeah. So he has to be able to balance. If there's a crisis, he must be able to play a twin mothers role. Yeah. Or else this situation he might think that the situation he's flagging he might be trying to bar public sentiment, but he has to be careful. He has to look at it from the other perspective, that, hey, remember, I was being seen as an opposition to this government because I come from CDC. So if if he's not careful, he will be trying to satisfy the opinions of those who say that he's an opposition, that he will not work with the government. Though the speakership election was tough, he won the election. We also have to learn from the history of Speaker Edwin Snow. Speaker Snow, if you check the record, was one of the shortest serving speakers. I know Imaya Nukwe served a very short time. I think he was the most shortest serving speaker, because the time was short when Speaker Tyler resigned. But Snow had a similar problem, and because he came from the NPP, and then the Unity Party government agreed with the international community to send Charles Taylor to The Hague, to transfer Mr. Taylor over to Sierra Leone here and there, quote unquote, going to The Hague. So the NPP people were angry, and then the issue with Snow came out. Unity Party said they can't work with Snow, blah blah blah, because there was fight also. The civil society, Ezekiel Party, and the rest of the people, we attended press conferences where the civil society was against Edwin Snow becoming speaker, because he had worked in the NPP government. And they left on the fighting until claims and counterclaims came out that there were supposed some money from China here and there, quote unquote, to remove Speaker Snow. And at the end of the day, Speaker Snow was removed. The same Speaker Snow that was removed on allegations that the support came from the executive. At the end of the day, Speaker Snow worked his way around. He went back to the Unity Party and started campaigning for Mr. Sedi second time. This is the same Unity Party that he said, even if they had changed the bylaws and constitution of the Unity Party, he was never going to be a member. I raised that issue with him right around Fish Market in one of the interviews. So I'm just bringing out these bits and pieces from the past. If the current Speaker Kofa is listening, to be able to recollect from some of these issues, so that he has to be a little bit careful, because the government is young. When the noise is like this, it makes it a little bit challenging for government actors to work in line with one another.
Okay, yeah. So let's hear from you quickly, because we're running out of time.
I just like to say that there's no the analysis made by Tatos. I mean, I don't tend to agree with it, because as far as we know, there's no plan whatsoever to remove the speaker. We have consistently said that this is a government, and we have to respect the doctrine of the separation of powers. The executive has got no intention to interfere with what happening at the legislature. The speaker and the president enjoy a very healthy relationship, and the speaker himself has continuously indicated, pointed to that point, that he and the president have good relationship and everything. What is unfolding about speaker being removed? They have their own way how to play legislative politics. For my experience at the legislature, I would think that people who want to gain favor from the speaker will continue to raise alarm. Oh, we want to remove the speaker. When that happens, you see press conferences are being held to reaffirm loyalty and everything. Those things are not being influenced by the executive. Okay. On the threat to shut down the government, I don't think it's in the right direction. We know very well the legislature is a fourth branch of government. And if the speaker has an issue, there are channels through which you can address the issue. The authorities at the Ministry of Finance are subject to the powers of the legislature. Okay? There's no point where the executive ever stop or block payment to the legislature as was done in the past, as Tato pointed out. So, there are the two scenarios are absolutely dissimilar. And we intend to run the government on a way that everybody feel respectable in their own area. You have a legislature that is the first branch of government. You have a judiciary that is supposed to be interpreting the laws. You have an executive that is supposed to be enforcing. So if we can say this is the doctrine of separation of power, here is where we're supposed to operate. Here is where you can go. Here is where I can go. It's going to be okay. So I think the speaker is a level-headed person. The idea that allotment are not being approved or provided for from the Ministry of Finance doesn't in any way suggest that the president is fighting the speaker or there are plans to remove the speaker. No, that's not the objective of the government right now. The objective of this government is to deliver on the arrest agenda. We are in the process of formulating a national development plan that is on course. After the president 3-day retreat, the cabinet retreat, the consultation for that process, the national development plan is on. We also have follow-up meetings with the visit to Korea. You see a lot of things being done. We talk about road maintenance, the bringing in of the yellow machines that will ensure that we can have a maintenance corridor for the country. Those are the things that the president is focused on. And I don't say that, somebody want to remove the speaker. To what end?
Okay.
Stability is a key factor in governance.
So we have to leave it there. We run out of time. We have to leave it there. And the guy is already, Tato, you said the guy is already running with it.
He's already in the seat. He's doing the job right now, though he's not confirmed.
Yes, right. Well, guys, thank you for coming today. It was nice that the topics that we discussed here, and like the interaction, you guys are very frank to each other, and you nearly, the aspect of the government. He's coming to, being a little bit, watered down.
That does we want to raise eyebrow over these things.
No.
You come from the civil society background, from the media background, so I can understand why you want to speak that way. So, my job is to tell you why it is from the government perspective, and that's why we've done here. So, okay, I look forward to being here. Maybe next Friday. Next Friday. Yeah, next Friday. My colleague Matthew Yemplu and I will be here, so we can partner with other people, so we can have, continue the national conversation.
Okay, thank you so much.
We've
been talking.
It was a pleasure.
So we were on a media roundtable. We're talking to the Deputy Minister of Public Affairs and also Titus Tupa, the CEO of Peter Kwekwe School. Now, when we come back on the next segment of the Super Money Show, of course, we're going to be having the firing Eugene Lamie Fangon, and he's going to set the record straight on the LTA pronouncement that LBS, like many, is operating illegally. Let's bring you this song now.